Good evening, folks, and welcome back to day number 49 of the Bible in 365. Today we are examining Numbers chapter 21 through Numbers chapter 23. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, folks, so Numbers 21 tells us that the king of Arad attacked and captured the Israelites on the road to Atharim. Now, the Israelites cry out for deliverance of their brothers and sisters, and they handed the Canaanite cities over to the Lord for destruction. Destruction ensues, and the Israelites continue on their journey. Now, while traveling, the Israelites begin to complain. There's no surprise here. It's just the same thing over and over again. So this time the Lord sends venomous snakes. The snakes bite the people, and several people die. The people then cry out to the Lord for deliverance, and Moses intercedes on behalf of the congregation of Israel. The Lord offers a remedy, and the remedy comes in the form of a bronze snake on a pole. Essentially, anyone who is bit by one of the venomous snakes would look at the bronze snake on the pole and would live. Now, Numbers chapter 1 also details the Israelites' journey to Moab. Once in Moab, the Israelites plead with Sihon, the king of the Amorites, for safe passage through his land. But he refuses, and he attacks the Israelites. So the Israelites put him to the sword and take over his land and occupy his cities. Verses 32 through 35 of chapter 21 note how the Lord delivers Og, king of Bashan, his army and his lands, also into the hands of the Israelites. Moving forward to Numbers chapter 22. In Numbers chapter 2, it tells us that the Israelites travel through Moab and end up camping alongside the Jordan River across from Jericho. So at this point, Balak, the king of Moab, and the Moabites were fearful and full of dread because of the Israelites. So Balak sends elders to Balaam and asks him to curse the Israelites in order that the Moabites may be able to defeat the Israelites. Balaam was a mediator of sorts, kind of like a prophet to the gods. Now, at this point in time, the Lord appears to Balaam and tells him not to go with or side with Balak because the Lord is with the Israelites. So Balaam refuses to go. Now, Balak is persistent and sends more and more messengers. And this happens for some time. And finally, the Lord instructs Balaam to go with the messengers, but to do as he instructs. Now, the next part of the story is quite fascinating. So Balaam sets out the next morning with the Moabite officials, and God ends up being very angry. So the angel of the Lord appears and opposes him. Now, at this point in time, Balaam can't see the angel of the Lord, but the donkey that he is riding sees the angel of the Lord with a sword drawn, so it veers off the side of the road. Balaam beats the donkey because he's upset by its actions. Then the angel appears when they're going through a confined space in a vineyard, and Balaam's foot is crushed up against the wall, so he beats the donkey again. And then the angel of the Lord cuts off the path of the donkey, and so the donkey lays down, and Balaam beats the donkey again. At this point, the Lord makes the donkey speak, and the donkey says, "What have I done to you to make you beat me these 3 times?" And Balaam essentially said that the donkey made him feel like a fool, and he would kill the donkey if he had a sword. At this point, the Lord opens Balaam's eyes, and Balaam is able to see the angel of the Lord with his sword drawn. Now, the Lord confronts Balaam and allows him to continue on the journey, but reminds him that he can only say what the Lord wants him to say. Moving forward to Numbers chapter 23. Within this chapter, Balaam arrives, and before the king of the Moabites, before Balak. And at this point in time, Balaam asks for 7 altars to be built and for offerings of bulls and rams to be sacrificed upon these altars. Balaam goes and meets with God, and the text reveals that the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth. Now, this is a very important detail because each time that Balaam is going to speak, it's going to say that the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth. So it is informing us that the Lord is speaking, not Balaam. Now, Balaam essentially states that he can't curse those that the Lord has not cursed, and that his death will be a righteous one. Balak takes Balaam to yet another place, hoping that he will curse the Israelites. Again, Balaam has 7 altars built where he meets with the Lord, and again, the Lord puts a word in his mouth. Essentially, the word states that God is blessed, and Balaam cannot change that. that the Lord, their God, is with them, the Israelites. So Balak is upset and tells Balaam not to curse them, but not to bless them either. So Balak takes Balaam to yet a third location. This is on the top of Peor, overlooking the wasteland, and Balaam builds 7 altars there as well. It is here in the middle of the story that we end our reading for today. If you'd like to see what happens, please join me tomorrow to see how the story ends. We're going to take a look at Numbers chapter 24, beginning in verse 1, and we're going to explore all the way to Numbers chapter 26, ending in verse 34. As always, folks, God bless.